All right. I am here today with Peter Ricci. He's the clinical associate professor and director of hospitality and tourism management at the Florida Atlantic University. How you doing today, Peter?
Good. I'm glad you got all that out without coughing. It's a, academic.
I had to take a breath, Peter. I'm not going to lie. It's a big one.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm in sunny South Florida. It's 82 degrees. I don't know where you are, but it's nice. It's a beautiful day. So it's a good day to be chatting with you.
Yeah, global warming. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and it's like 78 degrees right now. So we're, another beautiful day.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, one of the things that I think anybody who has come across you on LinkedIn or heard some of your conversations knows that, you're at FAU, but you also have an amazing program you teach there, a certificate program. Would you mind maybe telling me a little bit about FAU, the hospitality program, then the certificate program?
Sure. I came to academia late in my career, late 30s, early 40s, when I did my doctorate, and then I came to FAU to start this program 15 years ago. We were one of the first ones in a business school model, which is a little different from traditional hospitality because the students have to get through a Bachelor of Business Administration, which has more finance, more accounting, more quantitative. And I prided myself on building that kind of model because the employers really like the outcome in our alumni. So we started a certificate face-to-face many years back when I first came here, probably 13, 14 years ago. And at the start of COVID, all my employer friends around the country, because, I've been in the business a long time, started emailing me. We think we're going to have layoffs. We think we're going to have layoffs. Do you have anything we could do with the employees if they do get laid off? And we took the time to build it online and it wasn't even hybrid. We were going to do it synchronous at first. And it got so big in a week that we couldn't do it synchronous. So we had to develop a whole certificate asynchronous. It went global. But the best part of it is not only the 70,000 or so that were in it in the beginning, but we had so many requests to continue lifelong learning. And we had so much goodwill from all over the world. I think in the end, we've had 175 countries, and it still grows every 6 months. It's just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. But the hospitality voices all over the world, everybody wanted some hospitality education that they could do on their own. And it didn't matter if they had an MBA or if they only had a 6th grade education. We tried to do something that would appeal to everybody at every level, and that's super challenging. But they tasked me with trying to keep it going. So we offer it now in 30 hours instead of 15 hours. So it's a reasonable amount of content. And a lot of people use it for their continuing education units. And thanks to donations, it's only $199, which I think is probably the cheapest certificate I've ever seen because I take them myself. But what's even better is we continue to get donations. So we give everybody a $50 partial scholarship. I've never had to say no. So the whole thing has just been fascinating to me. And now I ask what we should build for the 24-25 content, because the objective is what's going on in the industry, what are some areas that might be important around the world. And in the current one, it's AI, it's real estate development, it's wine, it's sustainability, and we try to do a mixture of a little of everything. That's the hard part, is having a CEO in the same time as a brand new busser in a local casual dining restaurant, taking away stuff that they feel is valuable. But who would have thought, in 2023, I'd be sitting here with this kind of experience? It just overwhelms me still, in a cool way,
Well, that's an interesting set of, it's an interesting questioning line there, right? So what kind of requests are you getting? I mean, you said, AI, real estate development, wine. I mean, are these pretty consistent going into 24, 25 as well?
24, 25, the biggest request consistently is sustainability.
Okay.
Career growth and development without a formal education, because that's a big thing right now, is the lack of a need in the young person's mind for a formal bachelor's or master's. They are so bombarded with certifications and certificates and webinars and podcasts that they really want to focus on the stuff they want and not go through 2 years of general education requirements that most any university would require. And is the value of a bachelor's there? I mean, right now we're in the midst of the argument over student loan debt relief. So is the value there? And hospitality is never predicated a value equivalent to chemistry or accounting or biology. Only recently, in the past couple of decades, has the hospitality degree gained traction and value. And it's gotten there, but I understand where that conversation comes from. And then they really enjoy hearing from industry leaders in the certificate. Like in the current one, I have the VP of HR from Darden Restaurants, I have the CEO of Hilton. They want to hear macro level and big time people's opinion. And they also want to hear the voice of their peers as to where they are in the cog in the wheel on their journey. So sustainability, career growth, value of formal education, technology and AI, ChatGPT. Every other comment is ChatGPT and their new competitor that's coming out. And I quote or put in parentheses ChatGPT in the industry versus me as an academic worried about cheating and plagiarism and production of your assignment. So two different things. And sophistication in consumer behavior comes up a lot, like having a market segment of one and directly providing the stuff to the guests. And but I can tell you every third one is sustainability, whether it's a cruise ship, whether it's event planning and incorporating sustainability there. That has come up so much that I really want to do a whole module on sustainability in this one. But it's interesting. Every 2 years now, we plan to update it, and we will ride the wave so that people can come back every 2 years. And if anybody watched your podcast, which I hope you have thousands, the first person to email me, I'll give them the certificate for free this round. So I do that every podcast. So it's just fun, and it gets me to meet people, and it gets me to hear, the best part for me is I've probably had 1 million comments in the past 2 years from different levels of every part of the world. And it fascinates me. It fascinates me.
That's awesome. And, for anybody listening right now, where are they emailing you at, Peter? So we don't get too far away from that.
My email's my name. It's Peter, Peter, dot, my last name, Ricci, Ricci, Peter.Ricci at FAU.edu. And it's FAU for Florida Atlantic University, or just connect with me on LinkedIn or whatever. That's fine. But I do that because, the goal now for me is to keep people learning lifelong. I didn't have that option. I was a college kid of the 80s, and I worked, in high school and restaurants where there was no internet, there were no podcasts, there was no webinar. Now, listen to 30 people, take all of their various opinions, and then make your own decision. Because we're an industry from IT to finance to supply chain logistics to purchasing. Whatever you like, whatever your stick is, there's a home for you in our industry. Our industry is just the broad place that you'll work within. And we're the most fun business. I don't care what anybody says, we have more fun, and we're all about human interaction. So it's a joyful career path, and it needs to be looked at more broadly than people usually do. They narrow it to restaurants, hotels, theme parks, and a handful of slices, when that's not the reality of all. Right now, the student, he's 20. He got his captain's license last year. He's been a fisherman since he was 12 years old. He's getting ready to purchase his own charter fishing boat. He's in the hospitality business. I have one that's in country club membership. She's really into sales and member relations and communications. I have another one who's a general manager of a restaurant who wants to go into wine sales. I mean, there's something for everybody. Something for everybody.
So you've talked, you've touched on your students a bit here. Obviously you've got this certificate program, which people from 175 countries are taking right now. But you also run, you run a hospitality program at FAU. Is that correct?
Correct. I have about 1,000 students in seats this semester. We have a bachelor's in business administration with a major in hospitality. We have an MBA with a specialization in hospitality. The MBA has become fascinating post-COVID because a lot of those individuals did our COVID certificate. and they're globally all over the world. So when I set up assignments now, I'll have someone in Germany, I'll have someone in Tokyo, I'll have someone in the Philippines, and reading all of their different roles and how and what and tourism means to them in their specific industry is fascinating. And what I really like about the business school model, and I'm glad we were an early adopter of the business school model, is you don't have to work in the historic hospitality lane per se. You might work at Amazon, or you might work for Bank of America as a relationship manager. Or I have people who work for Wawa, which is a very famous convenience store chain, but it's still hospitality in their spirit and in their day-to-day interactions, which lands them these positions and makes them a better leader. I have quite a few independent financial planners, and what they got out of excellence in guest service and fast communications or whatever topics we teach applies now to them in financial services, because they treat their clients better than their peers would because they have a hospitality demeanor. So yeah, so I always say now I run the hospitality program in the background. I'm sure my dean doesn't like that I would say that, but that's the reality, because my days have become, I never had a LinkedIn account before our certificate. And so I didn't even know really how valuable this network was. And when I realized how many countries were represented, far fewer are in our mix now. Most are domestic, Caribbean, Canada, but we still have that network. This week, I got an email from a lady at Hilton who found her job from my job posting network, and she's in Malaysia, and she now works as an HR director at a Hilton brand. So I just love that, the global feeling of hospitality.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, right now you've got 1,000 students ish. One of the things that's been really, really interesting to me is, if we take a look at those students, I mean, they're entering a post-COVID hospitality world that is, 1 minute is a skyrocket. Next minute, there's a recession. Everybody's scared. We think this is going to happen. We don't know if that's going to happen. I'm really curious, is they're getting ready to enter this just job market. What are they thinking about the industry right now as they get into it?
It's interesting because, again, not to say it again, but in the business school model, say I have 200 out of the 1,000 who are pure majors. I might have 700 who are combo other business disciplines, minoring in hospitality or vice versa. Then I have 100 who are exploring it. So the pure majors are the ones who really liked hospitality in high school. They're doing valet parking, they're servers at Outback, they're bartenders at the popular nightclubs. They love it already and they want to do it, and it's in their blood. The others are, wow, this is kind of interesting. My parents said not to do it because it's services. My dad lost his job at X company, but what's the reality now? They're exploratory. So we have really positioned ourselves to be a trainer of services excellence. And whether that means you wind up at Disney or Carnival Cruise Lines or Darden Restaurants or Wynn Casinos, that doesn't matter to me as long as I trained you to be an excellent communicator and an excellent provider of service. I want you to be super responsive to emails, very good at writing, able to look a person in the eye. Our biggest challenge with the students that are in the program now is getting them back into the classroom, getting them into human interaction versus only Zoom or only Teams, because these are the students who had high school and early college during COVID, where everything was shut down. So the convenience factor and the convenience desire truly skyrocketed for them. But we've managed to find ways to do that. We have, last week, we went to a very luxury country club in Jupiter, Florida, the club at Admirals Cove, and had speed interviewing and a tour and a lunch and hear from people who are doing what you're going to be doing in a year. And in 2 weeks, we have Seminole Gaming, which is the parent company of Hard Rock International. They'll be on campus and they're immersed in the classrooms, and they'll bring table games dealers and they'll bring bartenders. That's the way we're going to get them excited. And it's bringing the sexiness back. The negative bashing we got during COVID is pretty much out of their minds. But
That's
I
great.
think it's I don't really know what I'm going to do. And what do you do when you say you work in hospitality? So that's kind of where they're coming from in the majority of the questions I get.
So what kind of things are they keying in on as far as, either things they're excited about or even concerns as they're looking to enter the market?
Some of the concerns are on both sides. Like one of the concerns I have is that we're finally paying great wages for entry-level workers as a positive outcome of COVID. But I have some students who are starting at $20 to $23 an hour in entry-level roles like front desk agent, intern, concierge, etc. My fear is that if you're already at 40 or 50,000 in the hourly role, where are you going to be when we promote you, and how experienced are you going to be to deal with the people around you? So I have that concern. Their concern remains career pathing. That's a big one. Is yes, I can start in the country club in the accounting department in accounts payable, but where do I go? Very different from some other industries that have clear-cut pathways and growth models. We've always struggled a little bit in that. So I'm a huge fan of the American Hotel Lodging Association, and in my career path, I did food service, banquets, destination marketing, hotels, and I lived at sea for 1 year, but I'm really a hotel fan. And so I think the American Hotel Lodging Association's leader, Chip Rogers, has done an amazing job transforming them into an organization that's very focused on the future of the hospitality industry, not only hotels, but primarily hotels. But they have some very good dialogue on their website between working professionals and young, or I hate to say young people, new people to the industry at any age. So you haven't worked in a hotel. What is my day like as a director of rooms? What does it mean to be a director of security at a hotel? And so on and so forth. And, I love the breadth of hospitality. And that's kind of what I sing to young people all the time. Oh, you tell me you're a supply chain management major. Have you ever thought about taking those skills to work at a casino company? No, what do they do? Have you ever thought of being a food and beverage purchasing director for a country club? Oh, they have those? Well, here's an alumni that does that. So you wouldn't know that at 18 to 30 years old if you've never worked in our business. And if you're coming out of another business and you're 57 like me, you really don't know what we have to offer either. So it's just a lifelong quest for me to help educate people that you can do whatever you like and then apply it to hospitality, whether you're an attorney. I have a student, he was a pharmacy major, not pharmacy, but something like pharmacy. He minored with me in hospitality, went to work for Target when they owned their chain of in-store drug pharmacy companies. Now he works for CVS, and because he's been promoted to a VP level was because of his hospitality skills taking care of their customers. So it's all related. Doesn't matter if it's finance, retail, restaurant, or your Marriott. You are taking care of the end user, and that's kind of what we do in hospitality.
So with the market, ever changing, right? We came out of COVID and you couldn't find anybody to work in hospitality, right? I mean, despite the number of people that wanted to come back, it was really difficult. When people are graduating now or they're entering the workforce, are they finding the opportunities that they're looking for as far as whether it's entry leadership or these decent paying roles? Are those accessible and available to them right now?
The data indicate that we're still down probably 1 million people nationally, maybe 500,000, I hope by now. We are still down, but we've also created fewer positions, either through efficiencies or this or that. I will tell you that anecdotally in my world, everybody tells me they're staffed again, about 90-95%, but our turnover is a bit higher than when we went into COVID because the higher pay rates have attracted a new employee that hadn't worked in hospitality before. They didn't know exactly what it entailed, and they don't stay as long. So interestingly, my certificate program has shifted among employers to become more of a retention tool versus an education tool. So they know that when you're in there, you're going to be 2 or 3 months going through the program. You're less likely to leave my organization during the time frame you're in our certificate. So I find that a little fascinating. But we post open roles as a community service. I've done that for many years. It exploded after COVID, and now we probably have about 1,000 to 1,500 emails a week from all over the country, all over the world, actually. And each one probably has 20 or 30 open positions in those emails. Sometimes it's one job. Hi, I'm looking for a catering sales director, but most of them are attachments that have multiple job openings across the country. So one more thing on this, and then I'll close why it's difficult. Our program may have just under, I think we're at 900 and something students this semester. Don't quote me. It's somewhere near 1,000, but our high was 1,300. At the height of COVID, we were at 600. So globally, hospitality and tourism programs at the college level have shrunk. And beyond that, several programs have closed globally. So we will have a labor shortage of college educated output for the next decade, at least, maybe 5 years if we're lucky. That's the college program level. What about the vast majority who do not attend college? So yes, there's still a high number of postings that more than ever before because of this ongoing shortage of workers. And so I put that in a positive. It's a great time to come into hospitality. So many jobs. And it's a great time to get promoted faster, because if you're really good, there's probably 2 or 3 positions, 2 or 3 levels above you that are still open. If that makes sense, one of the large cruise lines, Royal Caribbean, and their sister lines, Celebrity and Silversea, we had a conversation this week, and I think they said they had 300 positions open. So 300's manageable. I remember at one point, the local casino, that's our largest, biggest, most beautiful, the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, they had 1,300 positions open alone at one time. So things are better, but we still need people, and we need great people that want to be here for the right reason. So if you love people and you love hospitality, this is a better time than I graduated. It's a better time than any of my friends graduated. So it's a good time. Yeah.
So with, obviously there being competition for good people coming into the industry and wanting to attract them. I mean, you obviously talk to people on both sides, right? Students and job seekers. You also talk to a lot of businesses, obviously, as well. What are some of the things these employers can do to differentiate themselves and really make themselves attractive besides just floating a wage out there?
Well, I'll give you 2 examples. One comes to mind of a young lady who is a senior with me, who is outstanding. I think she's a junior, actually. She's outstanding. Great grades, 4 or 5 different services roles over the years to experiment in different areas, from an ice cream store to a real estate firm internship, just exploring life, but professional beyond belief. She went to the country club event last week and now has 5 different clubs that want her. So she came to me and had a spreadsheet. This one's paying this one does this, and she was very organized. So with them, you've got employers that all want her. And the one that stood out to her was the one that made her feel the most welcome when she went there, and the one that listened to her about her career expectations, and the one that also understood that she lives out of state, that she may need to go home while she's still in school once or twice. They were just very caring and hospitable, and they were upfront and transparent, whereas others didn't give her the answers. So I find with entry-level people, they want transparency and they want to know the real deal. Not that you say you're a great culture and then they go on Glassdoor and they see the opposite. They're going to explore you right away. They're going to look you up on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. They're going to check out your friends. They're smart. And like I said, she had her Excel sheet. So she gave everybody a star rating based on her experience, which I thought was hysterical. So I said, well, by the time you're coming to me, you're not really needing me. But she said, no, I want your advice. Okay, so that's the younger, newer career transition or older person. They want to know what the real deal is. What I'm hearing from the experienced workers is that we're doing a poor job on the process through the funnel to get hired.
Hmm.
We don't respond even after an interview or two fast enough. We don't let you know where you are in the process in transparent fashion. Or we don't reply at all. And then you see that the job is reposted. So it's an HR challenge right now, because like the rest of the industry, HR is also short on their staff a little bit. And they probably don't have the time to coddle all the responses, even though that would be a little more professional and keep you engaged. But I have heard it's got to be well into the hundreds of complaints about the lag time to get information when you're going through the process and so on and so forth. That seems to be a little struggle right now. Also, the mass departures that we had, when those individuals attempted to come back, they often had closed doors for some reason. And I'm not sure if there were large chunks that probably the organization had hired for less expensive, or if they had hired and gone in a different direction, but there was a little bit of sour taste from the long-termers. I don't hear that as much any longer, which is a very good thing. But for a while, that was an issue. And, I hear it in academia a lot. We hire new faculty at much higher current rates than we do people who hired 10 years ago, and they haven't caught up yet. And it happens in nursing, and it's now happening in hospitality, where I'm a front desk agent and I'm starting at $22, and you were excited because you started at 16 instead of 12, but I'm not at the 22 that you're getting hired at. There's not equity. So
That's
equity is an
interesting.
issue for a while. It'll even out, but it's an issue for a while. And, things are moving so quickly. That's part of the problem as well, is that we're really, everything's changing so frequently. What are the rates? Was there a COVID outbreak? Yes, they still exist. Is there a recession or is there not? It just, every day it's a challenge, but that's our business. It's fun. It's challenging.
Well, I think it's really interesting because you keyed in on a couple of things or a few things there that, really there's no cost associated with, right? I mean, transparency, giving people the real understanding of what your organization looks like, calling them back. When you look at where we're investing our money, right? It's higher wages, it's sexier environments, it's focusing on trying to create flexibility and all of this, and things just as simple as gatekeeper things like, hey,
Yep.
let us know what it's really like there, right?
Right.
Be transparent, open, and honest with me, or call me back. Like
Yeah.
that's really interesting to hear as some of the few things that came out of your mouth there, because you could have very easily said, the hospitality has fallen back into that 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, and nobody's about that life anymore. And, you could have gone a lot of different ways with that. And I'm really surprised that, hopefully everybody heard the fact that there's some really powerful things you can do that aren't going to cost you a ton and get you engaged there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, many have fallen back to those routines, but I'm staying positive. But I'm chuckling a little bit because just today, one of my alumni, I got to tread lightly because it's a well-known company. This is an experienced alumni, almost 40 years old, so high-level position, but first position where he or she has had a team of 30 people. So reaches out to get management advice. They reach out till they're retiring at 75, by the way. So that's also part of the joy of being a professor. But one of his favorite associates in his new position had a 10-year milestone at this company and was not recognized by anyone. Not even a note they said a note on their chat line or something. And so went to him because it's super comfortable with him as the new leader and said, I'm so disenfranchised. I'm so sad. I just can't believe it. All they had to do is say, congratulations on your 10-year anniversary. That costs zero. Meanwhile, they have 17 positions open in his division or whatever it is, her division. And they're paying such exciting rates to get people in, but they're forgetting the one who's been there 10 years. So those stories, unfortunately, they remind me that we're in hospitality. A positive spin on this is I have another alumni who's interviewing for a job. He found out that prior to his second interview that the HR director was going to be at a career fair. He brought her a handwritten thank you note from his first interview. And I said, oh my God, I am so impressed with that. I said, was she impressed? He said, I left it on her laptop and she wrote me the next day. She wasn't at the table when I went there. She was blown away. I said, that's great. That's just pure hospitality. Pure thank you costs nothing. And he's like, well, you did that when you went and interviewed with Royal Viking Line. You told that story in class one day. And I'm like, oh, I did. So if I can touch one that remembers something inexpensive that's meaningful, that's our business. It costs nothing to smile and say, hey, how's your dad? I haven't seen him since the last visit to the hotel. That costs nothing. Or you've been working here 5 years. Here's a bag of popcorn. Let's celebrate something, that costs almost literally nothing.
It's so funny. My company just had a retreat recently, and that was one of the things that came up is that, a lot of people are getting stuck in this mindset of having to have a process that fits everybody or scalability on everything that you do, that creates efficiency and growth at scale. And then you realize sometimes the most impactful things are the things you can't scale. And then you go back and you realize that's hospitality. Like,
yes, it is.
It's those individual efforts that make incredible experiences, whether it's for the guest, whether it's for the future team member, whatever that looks like. It's the non-scalable. And I know people always, talk about mass customization, right? You have an idea and then you let the team member run with it, and you can synthesize that, but it really is those experiences that make a unique experience for whatever, whoever the end user is there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the business we're in, so why not do it internally? I mean, it's just a no-brainer to me. And I was kind of surprised, but this is one of his confounding things as a new boss, because apparently this person was comfortable enough to come to him. And now how is he or she going to rectify it? Do you go to their former VPs and say, hey, you missed a boat, send it now? And then you'll know something was said. It's right. Really awkward. It's awkward. It made me chuckle, because here's someone who's, and chuckle probably not in a good way, but I'm like, here's one of your key people for 10 years, and yet you're worried about raising the rates on the ones behind them to get entry level. So how about first not forget the people who are building your house, that have been with you since you poured the foundation. Let's start there, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and that definitely speaks towards, the culture and having the, a real view of the culture. Those stories where people will say, oh yeah, I've been here 10 years because X, Y, and Z, and I'm really excited about the next 10 years because of X, Y, and Z. That builds your culture, as opposed to, having to worry about digging yourself out from a hole because you forgot somebody's 10-year anniversary.
Right.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to come back from.
Yeah. And I can't say it enough. Just be transparent. I mean, like I told you, I post jobs all the time. And one of the students came to me about 6 months ago and said, you're always posting for XYZ Hotel. And XYZ Hotel's general manager is always on social media saying how great the culture is, how they're the best paying in town, blah, blah, blah. I can tell you, every time your job posting comes out, they're the fifth or sixth, maybe seventh or eighth in pay. And so why would you say that all the time when you're not living it? People are cognizant about transparency these days, and they will call you out. And when I say that, the younger generations, my 18 to 22-year-olds, are more likely to call you out than the 23 to 30 and then so on. That's just no research proof there, but it's right. Interesting to me. So I just say be transparent. A lot of people tell me, oh, you talk sometimes a little negative, I'm like, I am a realist and I'm transparent, and I'm not going to lie because lies only hurt. So why bother? Again, so a lot of this is my opinion, but why would you not be transparent with your future employees, with your current employees, with your students? I mean, if I didn't think hospitality was a great place to work, I'd tell you that, but I love it. So I love it. And this is why I love it. Whether you love it or you're going to match it, that's up to you. But I'm going to tell you the transparent things that I see. That's just my nature.
You've given us so much to think about here, and pointed us in a lot of different directions here. I love the conversation around transparency and candor, because I think those, are foundations of leadership at any level. I think that if you practice those, especially in hospitality, your team is always going to be able to practice those, and your guests, yes, your internal employees love candor and transparency, but your guests, I mean, they thrive on it. And if you have transparency and candor with them, they will always stay with you. So definitely a great conversation to have.
Absolutely.
Peter, as we wrap up here, I always like to end with advice, right? And you've given us so much already, but what kind of advice are you giving to, your students as they're exiting your program and heading out into the work world right now?
Same advice I always say: do what you love, because you're going to spend a lot of time at work, whether it's virtual, in person, in an office, driving in the car, on a Zoom call. Make sure you love it. And, parents don't like when I say don't listen to your parents, but I don't mean it that way. I mean, do what makes you have fun. And I believe that the hospitality skills that we train for in our degrees and our masters and our certificates, those skills are applicable anywhere. So the light shined in hospitality during COVID, that so many people spoke, and a lot of people didn't realize how much fun we have in what we do. Of course, it was a bad time, but
Right.
those people skills and the joy we get out of taking care of others and making the world a better place. So I try to inspire them through that side. So my thing is always do what you love, and there's undoubtedly there's a thing that you love that you could do in hospitality, but I'm not going to push you there. Just do what you love.
I love it, man. Peter, that's great advice. I'm excited, for this, because I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of it. Hopefully people caught the piece in there, and we'll reach out to you about the certificate program.
Please do.
We'll make sure that we include your email and LinkedIn as well in the show notes. But Peter, thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again in the future.
A pleasure. And anyone I can help anyway, just reach out, career advice, whatever. I appreciate you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon, my friend.
Bye.